appointments to Donald Trump's cabinet. Here we go, everyone. Strap in. So, chief among them is Trump's election rival turned ally, who's known as RFK Jr. He's the nephew of President John F. Kennedy. He's been appointed health secretary. I'll come to that. So this is big. Let's just come over this way, and we'll have a look at three in particular. So Trump is on a high now. Here we go. We're watching, in a way, where this is like a kind of movie. It's Trump 2.0, the movie. It really, really is. And what's happened is someone's come on with the clapperboard and they've just gone, action, like that. So the movie's rolling. So let's have a look here. We've had some appointments already. Bear in mind, he's got to make about 2,000, so he has to get cracking. You'll know maybe the name of Mike Huckabee, who's going to be ambassador to Israel. Susie Wiles was his chief of staff, ran his election campaign. Some of these are more controversial than others. We've talked, haven't we, before about Elon Musk going in, and he's going to be the Department of Government Efficiency, which bizarrely has two people in charge of it. I'm going to focus on three in particular. So we've already discussed Musk a lot. Let's look at this guy, Pete Hegseth, Matt Gaetz, and also RFK, who I mentioned. So those three, Hegseth, Gaetz, and RFK, who all three for different reasons are controversial. Hegseth, let's go Gaetz first. Here we are, Gaetz. Bring on Gaetz. Right, okay. His appearance is the first controversial thing. This is what he used to look like for a long time, right? Sort of plump guy. Now he looks like that, right? And it's become a big thing on the talk shows, is how on earth, it's hard to pick out the most insane thing. This is Stephen Colbert, that the Republican convention gave us. No, it isn't. Everyone's asking, what the hell happened to Matt Gaetz's face? And it went to that, basically. That's the thing. So that's part of it. Holy Brotox, he says. And then he says he looks like a flame-broiled Donny Osmond. Also, he's Attorney General. He's been the subject of a sex trafficking and drugs investigation. So, mind blown. All right. Hegseth is mainly known as a presenter on Fox News. Have a listen.
What Israel's about to do is bring hell down on Hamas if they do it right. I mean real war, not like TV war. Real war, stacking bodies, dead people. Because Bibi Netanyahu's not going to mess around here. So it's going to take real fortitude to actually stand behind Israel.
So he sounded really quite war-hungry on Israel's behalf. He also threw an axe and hit... There you go, watch this. He threw an axe and it hit a drummer. This is Hegseth here. This is the new defense. It goes over there, hits the... There we are, bang. I don't know any context except he was throwing an axe and he couldn't throw it accurately. Okay, the third one is RFK. Amazing dynasty. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You'll know his father was Bobby Kennedy, the Attorney General in the JFK administration. That's him less than 30 minutes before he was shot dead in 1968. So it's a very famous and awful American assassination. So his son has now backed Trump and become health secretary. Why is that important? Because he's a major anti-vaxxer, as they're sometimes called. He's somebody who hated the COVID vaccine. He thinks that the MMR causes autism, which has been thoroughly debunked. And he's also said he'll remove fluoride, which helps strengthen teeth from the water. Have a listen.
Lowering IQ in our children.
What would you, on January 2025, or
I think fluoride is on the way out because of that court decision. I think the faster that it goes out, the better. I'm not going to compel anybody to take it out, but I'm going to advise the water districts about their legal liability, their legal obligation to their service zones and to their constituents, and I'm going to give them good information about the science, and I think that fluoride will disappear.
Okay, you've got a very odd voice. I'm not sure why. Maybe he's been ill. There's so much to get into here. I don't know, where do you even start?
Where do you even
start? So the Hegseth clip about Israel saying they've got to pile the bodies high has really upset people.
Of course it has, and absolutely rightly so. It's that kind of muscular talking, that very machismo, angry, army, war, defeating, my one's bigger than yours kind of talk that are just like, that's terrifying for us.
What about Matt Gaetz's face? What do you make of that?
I don't really like commenting on people's appearance, but he does look a bit odd. I'm
Too
not
much
sure.
Botox.
I'm not sure what's happened there, But I think he looked better before whatever's happened to him.
He had apparently Botox just before the Republican convention, but they had an overdose or something.
Yeah, it's
so.
Botox, for sure.
But RFK then, I mean, he's been very, very visible in American politics. He's had a voice disorder, which is why he sounds like that. He's also, by the way, said that his divorce, he said his behavioural issues in his first marriage were caused by a worm eating part of his brain. He's now the health secretary.
Making excuses, isn't it? And
well, we don't know if there's a worm in it.
It's more worrying that someone who's a conspiracy theorist is out there and also giving, again, for us, that whole, the Andrew Wakefield report that said that vaccines cause autism, which was then, he himself, the researcher, was like, no. And yet the world had just grabbed it and run with it. I thought I thought we were done with that now. However, this is going to bring it right back into the fore again.
He was certainly very anti-COVID vaccine. And I suppose the issue with vaccines is you can make them available, but you do tend to need to have a bit of persuasion. Because otherwise nobody bothers. Because I'm not going to take smallpox vaccine because I haven't seen anyone with smallpox the whole of my life. So I need to be told what to do.
But the reason you haven't seen anyone with smallpox is because of the smallpox.
Exactly.
And a lot of these diseases that have been eradicated, it's the reason we don't see high rates of child mortality, are because of vaccines. There have been some issues with the COVID vaccine. I think that's been quite well reported on. And with regards to RFK Jr, he's certainly a controversial appointment to Donald Trump's cabinet, not just because of the comments he's made about the vaccine, but he's also been on record saying that Prozac, an antidepressant, fluoxetine, which I actually take, is something which causes mass shootings, which I just think is absurd. But equally, there are some positives for RFK Jr.'s appointment. So he is actually, well, positives if you agree with this school of thought. So actually, some people might argue he's actually a Democrat. He only recently became a Republican. He's pro-abortion. He's pro-abortion, that's right. He's pro-abortion, so he's pro-choice. And he is very hot on this phrase, make America healthy again. So he's really passionate about children not eating ultra-processed foods.
Yeah, that's
true. He's actually quite pro opening up access to healthcare. He actually holds quite a lot of democratic policy positions on health. So some might argue that actually this isn't as bad a appointment as we think we just look at the negative.
He's a bit anti-McDonald's, and actually Trump is very pro-McDonald's. We saw he went to work
there.
So, the fluoride thing is interesting because it's quite a right-wing thing to say, just basically people should say whether they want fluoride in their water or not. You can't have the government putting fluoride in the water. However, the reason I've got 12 fillings in my mouth and my wife has none is because I was born in 1965 and she was born in 1975, and in those 10 years they put fluoride in the water. I'm certain of it. It really is good for your teeth. So it's one of those classic things where you think, is the state doing what's good for us without us necessarily giving it permission?
I think that's a nonsense argument, isn't it? To say the state shouldn't be putting fluoride in our water, it should be a choice, they should tell us. That's like saying, they shouldn't treat it with chlorine. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, exactly.
We know these things. There is evidence that proves these things make us healthier. If water wasn't treated with chlorine, we'd all have diarrhea all the time.
Then,
what
and
about
if it wasn't treated with fluoride, we'd have bad teeth.
The guy with the face, Gaetz, leave the face aside. As a congressman, he was subject to very serious allegations that he had basically sex trafficked a minor, but essentially what it was that he had been sexually involved with a 17-year-old and moved her from one state to another, essentially. And there was a drugs thing. That was all dropped. The problem is he's now the Attorney General.
It just feels mucky, doesn't it? It feels really mucky. It feels that someone can do stuff in that. All right, he's been found not guilty or didn't.
Well, there was an inquiry in Congress. He's not a congressman anymore because he's straight away quit when he got the job. So that runs into the sand, and the FBI went no further with it either. OK, but as a politician, obviously, that creates a fume.
But these roles should be taken by people who, obviously, everyone's got a life and we've all done things wrong. But I do think that these kinds of roles you have to be above questioning. There has to be, you have to be leading a life that actually is a good example. right?
Okay.
Surely it wasn't that just like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
basic thing of going into.
Well,
politics?
also bear in mind that
But there's more to it. There's
There
other
is.
claims of
There
him
is.
groping that are not to do with this.
There's a lot hanging around all of them. But there we go. I mean, he's won the election fair and square. That people know what they're voting for, so we can hardly complain.
It does feel like central casting, though, doesn't it?
Well, I think it feels like a movie, and Trump just says action. He's running it like a TV show. Okay.